And happy Sunday, everyone. This is Jonathan McNamara with JMU Sound Off. And in a week where seemingly every Sunbelt team, as well as every American team's Twitter account that was not associated with JMU, seemed to challenge the validity and the statements that have been made earlier in the season by JMU football. This week, the Dukes made a statement to the nation with a 58-10 win over their rivals in Appalachian State to bring them to 9-1 in the season, 7-0 in the Sunbelt Conference, and now move forward this week with a Marvel Week contest against Washington State at Bridgeforth Stadium in a game where the Dukes now continue to not only have a realistic shot at the college football playoff, but now, as a result of yesterday's win, have secured themselves a spot in the Sun Belt Championship game. That location, it appears, depending on your reading of the tiebreaker rules, will be at Bridgeforth Stadium, but stay tuned as we get more information about the official ruling on that tiebreaker, but inevitably go 1-0 for the Dukes, and they will have an opportunity going forward to do everything that we stated at the beginning of the season was a goal. But before we get into all of that on today's episode, we're going to recognize our sponsors, Skyline Financial Partners. Remember that you can empower your family for lasting financial success at SkylineFinancialPartners.com. Champions Drive Bourbon. I want to give a shout out to everyone who joined us at the Quill Lobby Bar on Friday with our friends from the Montpelier Collective. Did a raffle where someone won a 3-bottle set of Champions Drive Bourbon. Remember that event, and every bottle that's purchased at an ABC store or online goes to support student athletes and our pursuit of championships. You can find an ABC store near you at abc.virginia.gov, and you can search in the search bar and find a location that stocks Champions Drive Bourbon. I want to recognize Where's Woody. Remember that for 48 hours after every Sound Off broadcast, you can get 25% off using promo code SoundOff25, and that's at where'swoody.com. Holiday season is right around the corner. Perfect place to get gifts for the JMU fan in your universe, as well as there are other great products that they have at where'swoody.com. There's something for everyone. I want to acknowledge Purple Nation. Got a chance to hang out with Carol Benassi yesterday. Remember that Purple Nation now has stores in Midlothian, the west end of Richmond, Northern Virginia, and at the coast. And if you want to shop online, you can always do so at yourpurplenation.com. Shoker Enterprises. Joe Shoker was out and about yesterday, also on the sidelines. Through his philanthropic effort, he helps to impact personal and civic and institutional productivity for success. So shout out to Joe for all he does. The Dead Meat Society want to recognize our tailgaters of the week yesterday, John and Michelle Gall. They're up in the convocation lot, doing an incredible job. Got a chance to see their App State pin yacht that they had on the side, which was pretty amazing. Even had a working pipe. So shout out to them as we continue to find some of the amazing tailgates around campus that we can profile. As always, you can join the movement for grilling enthusiasts at deadmeatsociety.com. Shout out to Outdoor Kitchen Creations. Got a chance to see some of their amazing products yesterday at Barry Sonomon's tailgate with making some insane Korean barbecue. Check out our Instagram page to see some of that. And if you're looking to take your outdoor kitchen to the next level, as well as your tailgate, reach out to the team at Outdoor Kitchen Creations by visiting backyardtrends.com. And then finally, want to acknowledge our friends from Valley Road Vineyards. Next time you're on I-64 between Harrisonburg and Richmond, please stop by and tell them that you heard about the vineyard from Sound Off. You'll get 50% off your wine flight. And remember to consider them for your birthday parties, weddings, rehearsal dinners, holiday events. You can book your reservation or talk to the team at Valley Road Wines at valleyroadwines.com. And with that, I have listed every one of our sponsors. It's a mouthful for sure. But guys, what a day yesterday in Harrisonburg. I think all of us said that it was probably one of the more enjoyable days we've had in a long time inside of Bridgeforth Stadium, as well as the tailgate before it. I know we've said that a lot this season because we've had a lot to celebrate. But before we break that down, did want to kind of address the animal that's kind of out there on social media, the big news of the day. There were reports during the day on Saturday that JMU was in consideration for College Game Day. It was confirmed by JMU that we were in the running for College Game Day, but then some accounts obviously put it out there that College Game Day was confirmed to come to JMU. We find out this morning that it is in fact going to Oregon for their game against USC. And we put on social media that we know people are disappointed. But again, this is not a time to be sad, to be upset. Dukes are 9-1. Undefeated in Sunbelt play, and as Taylor eloquently put it yesterday in our Fast Thoughts, everything that we set out to do this season is still in front of us. But I just wanted to kind of take my take on the whole social media drama around game day just by saying we were very deliberate and intentional earlier in the season in bringing on Mike Barber onto this program, somebody I've had a chance to work with over a number of years, and somebody who have a tremendous amount of respect for. And we did that because there's been a lot of online chatter about the role of the beat reporters and the team reporters who cover this team every day. And I think my lesson from this situation is that journalism is really hard. Reporting takes due diligence. It takes vetting. It takes careful consideration of where you're getting your sources information are, and also people can get it wrong even when they do think that they have good sources in place to drive them towards a story or a headline. And in this era of trying to always be first or trying to be the one that can make a splash online, it's really challenging. And I think I come away from this being that all of us have a responsibility to pause, kind of vet where information is coming from, because these types of situations can cause real damage. And I know from our perspective at Sound Off, like when we hear things, we are trying to be humble in our own space as well, to know that this type of thing can happen to anyone. And we're a podcast that tries to do the best we can to get information right when we report it. But I guess from my perspective, just all of us have an opportunity now to kind of step back and take a deep breath and just know that this stuff's hard. And Taylor, I don't know if you had anything. I know this is becoming more of an issue as we look at the reporting of coaching carousel information and recruiting information that's out there. There's so many different sources that are out there, and people that claim to have inside tracks on information. It's just it's a new world and a challenging space for sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything to any of the accounts that were reporting stuff, but my message is more to the fan base. I was working at JMU in the early 2010s when a lot of the major conference realignment stuff was going on. And John can probably speak to this because he remembers when he was the president of the Richmond Duke Club chapter and I was on staff, and just the amount of fires that had to get put out over misinformation of conference rumors, of teams leaving, of things of that nature, where again, some of the sources were credible sources with either partially true information or speaking to things that were almost absolute as absolutes. And then I was a part of 2 head coach searches at UTSA. I learned a lot about how leaks kind of happen there, and sometimes they can be strategic from agents and things of that nature. But I guess the one thing I would say to fans, and again, I'm not trying to stand on any kind of soapbox, is the reason information is usually not public. It's not because everything is all tied up in a bow and done deal, sealed, and the organization's just like, let's just hang on to this for a day or so. It's not public because there are still aspects that could change. I have, obviously, John mentioned that. I think Shane reported that Matt Rohn said something earlier in the week that, JMU was being considered from College Game Day. And there's part of me that thinks that there was at some point yesterday, probably a 95% chance that they may or may not have been coming to JMU. I mean, I think that information comes out there because it's usually based in some kind of truth. But the reason there was no official announcement from ESPN or JMU was because there were still things to be confirmed. And so I say all this because we're about to enter the end of the football season. Yep. And at the end of the football season comes the coaching carousel, comes transfer rumors, who's coming in, who's going out. And there's going to be a lot of stuff reported. Sure things from credible sources of this person's definitely going here, this person's definitely staying, definitely going. The only thing, we will never report on anything that is not confirmed by a professional media outlet, only because we know when something is 99% certain, it is 1% possible to go the other way. So I just say, as a fan base, let's not get too anxious or frustrated or upset when it comes to coaching rumors, bowl rumors, player transfer rumors. Heck, in the next couple of years, we could be talking conference realignment again. There's a reason that stuff isn't public yet, and it's because there's always a chance that things could change.
Yeah, and before Afton, I give you a chance to kind of share any thoughts you might have on the college game day experience. I knew you were pretty excited about at least the possibility of it. I did want to read a statement that we received from JMU Athletic Director Matt Roan. So I'll read that now, and then we'll kind of go back into our comments. But this is from Matt Roan. We value our relationship with ESPN and College Game Day, and have appreciated the communication over the past couple of weeks regarding the possibility that they would make an appearance for a fourth time. While disappointed for our campus and community, and that we won't be able to show the world once again just how special this place and our fans are, we are excited to welcome a Pac-12 opponent to Bridgeforth Stadium in a 6 sellout crowd. Every goal is in front of us, so tailgate, get in your seats early, and be loud the whole game. He also wanted to add that at the beginning of the season, we created the goal to sell out 6 for 6, and he said we issued that challenge, and JMU answered the call in a big way, proving that there is not a better, more loyal fan base anywhere. Dare we go 7 for 7? And that to me is the biggest takeaway again, is that big picture, this program has never been hotter, in terms of not only the national attention that's coming their way, but also just the energy and the vibe on campus yesterday. Again, I saw so many people at tailgates this year that I never expected would be at their second JMU game of the season, or even third JMU, or now have season tickets. And that just shows that we've now broken through that kind of wall of where it's just the traditional people who have been coming for every game for years and years. This fan base is growing. I thought we saw incredible growth yesterday with the student section. Not only were they in the stands well before the game, there was a good group of students who were there throughout the fourth quarter. They had the shirts off, tarps off again, and were engaged in every way possible when that game was well out of hand. And that's a sign of a fan base that's maturing and growing up, and a sign of a fan base that understands that this program has nowhere near scratched the surface of what's possible. So after, maybe I'll come to you on that. Just the fact that we were even considered for a fourth time in 10 years, pretty remarkable time to be a fan.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be too mad they're not coming, because just like you said, we've had it 3 times in 10 years. It's pretty remarkable. We've had the biggest college game day crowd ever, and you can be disappointed, but you can't really be too mad about it. We have one of the best defenses in the country. Right now, it's looking like we have the best offenses in the country. If you ask me, we control our own destiny to the college football playoffs. Everything's going our way right now, so you can't be too disappointed about it. But from a non-JMU standpoint, I am surprised that they're going to Oregon. It kind of goes against their little rule of we're not going to go to 2 places in 1 year in the regular season, especially when it's Oregon, USC. It kind of surprises me. If I were them, I personally would have gone to Harvard, Yale, 10-0 Harvard, 7-2 Yale, or 8-2 Yale. But for a JMU aspect of it, you can definitely be disappointed about it, right? Because it's game day. It's a big deal. But you really can't get too caught up in it, because we are hosting the biggest brand that's ever come into Harrisonburg on Saturday. We're 9-1. The playoffs are in sight. Our first ever Sun Belt championships in sight. We've officially won the East, but there's still more work to do. So I just think you can't get too caught up in that right now.
Yeah, I did want to, before we go really into what happened on the field yesterday, one last couple shout outs, though, from us. We did get a chance to meet up with the team at the Sunbelt Syndicate. So for those of you who follow them on Instagram or X, do a great job covering the Sunbelt Conference. And the guy behind that platform is an App State grad and a proud App State fan. And he brought a decent group of App State fans to our tailgate yesterday, Taylor. And in a week where, again, it seemed like every account not affiliated with JMU, whether it was an American Twitter account from North Texas or South Florida, or I saw a wave of App State fans even questioning the talent of this JMU program and questioning if we were even a rival of theirs, which, if you want to get into that, we can surely do so. But at least I personally found every interaction I had yesterday with App State fans, both before and after the game, to be incredibly pleasant. I thought they were, the ones I met yesterday were super hyped, not only about the game, but to a person really commented on how much they've enjoyed having us in the conference. And that for me, like, was the best of college football kind of in action, is why we were excited about the Sun Belt, is to have a game against a team like App State yesterday in Bridgeforth Stadium in the regular season, not having to wait for an FCS playoff appearance to have a game of that magnitude, and to not do it in front of 11,000 fans, but to do it in front of 25,000 plus, which, as any of us who have searched even for a few minutes on Twitter, we've all seen the screenshots and videos from some of these American conference stadiums. They don't have that. And not to bring up a certain school that you worked at before, but Taylor, again, you worked at UTSA and had a chance to travel.
I did work at UTSA.
Yeah, to some of these American programs and have seen firsthand again how special an atmosphere like yesterday really is. And it's something again we continue to take for granted.
I've said it before, I think many times in this podcast, that when I first got down there was just kind of this assumption that, well, I'm working in FBS now, and that FBS football has FBS crowds, and I think was it UAB in North Texas yesterday? Is that who played each other?
Yeah.
I think someone sent us in our text thread the picture right at kickoff.
It was bad.
I mean, I've seen JMU.
Dare I say Georgia State-esque. It was rough.
And again, when JMU posted last night that the Washington State game was a sellout, 6 for 6. Not only does that not happen at JMU game or at G5 programs, but I think I saw somewhere also on Twitter last week where it was like the top 10 highest selling secondary market tickets for like the game week, the games that week. And I believe JMU App State was like 7th or 6th on that list of reselling. So, a lot of American fans are real quick to say, oh, well, it's easy to sell a 25,000 seat stadium out. One, it's not, because I think half the American is not averaging over 25,000. But number two, if we have tickets on the secondary market going for 150 plus, that tells me there's a large demand that's willing to find any way to get into that stadium. And I don't know about you, but I think a lot of people listening probably have friends that would like, yeah, I'd love to go to JMU. It's just I haven't looked into going because I don't have season tickets. I know they're kind of expensive. And you're not even like considering going to a game because you just kind of assume it's going to be too hard to get a ticket. So that kind of like, on the fence fan. I think if tomorrow JMU had 10,000 extra seats in that stadium, you'd get the type of fan that says, I haven't been to a JMU game. The tickets are now accessible. And I'd have no doubt that you'd have 35,000 people at a lot of the games this year. I don't want to lecture everyone again, but JMU fans, for those that have traveled around the country, obviously Afton has shown us his travels and all the other schools that he cheers for other than JMU. I'm kidding, Afton. I love Afton. But there's a lot of people that don't go to a lot of other college football games, and they just assume that like either JMU is the norm or they assume that it's much greater at other places, and it's just not.
Well, since you invoked Afton, I will say, Afton, you let us down a little bit on the Louisville game.
I know. That's on me. That's my bad.
We don't have to dwell on that.
And UVA killed Duke. So that's I need.
Oh yeah, but we're talking about other scores right now.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. That's my fault. I did that. I should have done that.
So I do, Afton, I'm going to turn to you just to start our game analysis yesterday, because you spent a good portion of yesterday's game on the sidelines, and I always think that provides an interesting view. But it's a game that ends 58-10. Yesterday's 109 journey for us was getting to see Taylor transition from the defense has not given up 300 yards in X many games. I know that was the thing you were so focused on too. We're going to keep them in single digits or keep them, below 100. So when they crossed over late in the fourth quarter, I know that was pretty rough. But let's not forget, early in the game, our offense kind of struggled a little bit for the first couple of drives where we had some batted down balls. We did get some first downs, but it didn't, in at least the first 5 minutes, have the feel of a game that was going to be 58-10. But boy, oh boy, did this team take off from there. Kind of Afton, your initial thoughts on what you saw from, we'll start with the offensive side of the football yesterday in a game where I'll just kind of tee you up. Alonzo Barnett does throw an early interception, but man, did he bounce back in a big way.
Yeah, if you watch the beginning of the game, you're completely right. You wouldn't think it would be 58-10. You don't think that we'd hold them to 0 points until the fourth quarter. But our offense was struggling in the first, I think, 3 drives. We threw a pick when we were entering the red zone, but the defense just gave us energy. And I'll say, when I was on the field, this was one of the loudest crowds I think we've ever had. The crowd definitely energized this offense. And I think the turning point of when it all started going well was the DJ Barksdale interception. We scored immediately after that. And then the offense just started humming. It was feeding off the defense. It was feeding off the crowd energy. And then I can't explain how loud it was. That was seriously one of the loudest JMU games I've ever been to. I would assume you guys have ever been to as well. Every third down, super loud, create a lot of false starts. But the offense just really got in a rhythm. We started pounding them with the run game, pounding them with the pass game too. Joby Mallory with a huge day. It seems like something in November last year. He had coming out party in November too. He's over 100 yards for the first time this year. He had a hat trick, 3 rushing touchdowns. Alonzo did not throw a passing touchdown, but he had 3 rushing touchdowns. He continues to dominate. He now has, I think it's like the 13th most touchdowns on the ground in college football, and he's a quarterback, which is pretty impressive. So I think he's up to 26 touchdowns now in the year. His touchdown to interception ratio is very impressive last year and this year. The pick when we're entering the red zone, though, I honestly am not going to completely blame it on him. He shouldn't be throwing the ball across body, but it got tipped at the line. It got tipped by a lineman and just went right to another defensive lineman. But ever since that play and then DJ Barksdale got a pick that next drive, ever since that DJ Barksdale pick, the offense just could not miss. It was great. Sluka also came in and played well in his limited minutes. You'd love to see how deep we can get, and hopefully we can carry it on to Wazoo.
Well, you bring up depth, and I think this is going to be a perfect way to tee up Taylor talking about his perspective on offense. But I want to take just a minute to list the players yesterday, both in the running game and in the passing game, that contributed to this game, because it's a worthy list to hear all the names listed out all at once. We'll start with the running back position. Joby Mallory, 8 carries for 105 yards yesterday and 3 scores. Unbelievable. Obviously, Wayne Knight continues to do what he does in just putting up a performance for the ages in terms of his overall contributions to the team. Matthew Sluka gets multiple carries. George Pettaway gets multiple carries. Jackson McCarter gets multiple carries. Jordan Fuller, Braden Wisłowski, Blake Kendall, and Alonzo Barnett from a running back perspective. So that gives you, in our 54 carries yesterday, just how many people contributed in the running game. Now let's go to the passing game. Jalen Sanchez, Wayne Knight again, Landon Ellis, Nick DeGeneres, Isaiah Alston, Logan Kyle, Lakota Dupree, Braden Wisłowski, Zeron Collins, Michael Scott, and Josh Pfeiffer all had receptions yesterday. It's an embarrassment of riches in terms of the depth of this roster, but it is not an underrated point that in a game like this, some of the names that we mentioned in that list hadn't been able to contribute because of just the way some of these games have gone on. But that has to contribute now to a locker room vibe that is beyond positive, beyond energetic, because everyone is now a part of this incredible rocket ship that continues to soar higher and higher. It's an awesome time for this offense, and we're seeing the results play out right on the field.
I mean, to your point, there were 9 different rushers in that game. 11 different guys caught receptions. I mean, there are some teams that probably don't have 11 guys on their roster to make a catch, let alone have them all do it in one game. And then we're not even talking about, we are, but Alonzo had his first 300+ game of the year passing. And, the only thing that overshadowed it was that, there wasn't a really player of the game. Obviously, I think Joby Mallory probably had the best single performance, but it really was the offense and the defense. We've continued to be I just go back to some of the lectures I gave early in the season when I was saying, there's still a whole season. And I was recanting how, here's some other seasons where we got off to a slow start and things were okay. And sure enough, all of the talking points that the fan bases seem to have early in the season that all were focused on the offensive woes, whether it be the play calling, the offensive coordinator, whether it be the quarterback, the passing and the receivers, what have you. None of that has been brought up in the last month and a half, really. And I think we're 14th in the country right now in scoring. One big thing that people aren't talking about, I'm trying to look at, we are 7th in the country in scoring margin. Now, sometimes I've seen JMU ranked high, after 2 or 3 games. You have an FCS opponent, some statistics that kind of skew that. We're 10 games into the season, and we're averaging almost 20-point victory per victory, and again, 7th in the country. That's the difference from the Signetti season 2 years ago, where we had a similar record, but we were not blowing teams out. And I don't know if I talked to anyone in the parking lot yesterday that's like, oh, that's what was the spread? 21, 22 points.
1.5, yeah.
I don't think I talked to anyone that was like, oh gosh, that's too low or too high. What am I trying to say? That the spread should have been bigger. I think every single person thought this game was going to be closer. I believe we were a 2-touchdown favorite the game day game 2 years ago. I believe we were like a 15-point favorite maybe last year down in Boone. I may be wrong about that, but I do know that we were significant favorites in those last 2 games, and that the storyline going into those games gave Appalachian State every opportunity to play spoiler, and they were coming in today. And the other thing that kind of scared me and why I thought that spread was too big, if you look at their losses, Southern Miss, Old Dominion, Georgia Southern, good teams, that they are a possession away from winning those games. Their record could be significantly better than what it is right now. So in my wildest dreams did not see a 48-point victory. Should have been a 58-point victory because, I mean, by the end of the game, everyone was getting playing time. And as we talked in the game, App State was still leaving in their starters, which, that might transition to the other point that for those of you at home were watching on TV, I think they said on TV that the quarterback left the game with a injured left wrist. They weren't sure if he was going to come back, but he came back. And I think it was a few possessions later, he was getting up sore, holding his shoulder. It looked like he took some really bad hits. And I'm like, man, when are they going to take this guy out? And then, John, I think you reported or something in the text thread last night that you saw that it is being reported that he broke his leg in the game, the App State.
It appears, yeah, it's the reports that it is a broken leg. Obviously, wait for them to confirm, but yeah, it did not look good. I know they had the air cast out yesterday, and yeah.
I just can't believe that they were continuing to let him in visibly from the stands, banged up, continuing to leave him in. It was just a matter of time where, you had guys playing full speed football and this guy is just not. And I feel awful for him. I would love to be in a press conference and ask the coach, what were you thinking? Especially since the number 2 guy came in late in the fourth quarter and
he passed for more yards.
Of the 146 yards that they put up on offense, 126 of those yards were put up in the last half of the fourth quarter. So maybe I'm transitioning defense a little too early.
I want to bring up 2 more things, though, just on the offensive side, because I think they're valid. In first, and it came out in the post-game press conference and we saw this in section 109, at the point in the game where JMU took a delay of game inside the red zone and then kicked the field goal. We could all visibly see how upset the offense was as they walked off the field. Alonzo kind of giving it back and forth between him and Coach Chesney. And I thought it was really cool that in the postgame, both Alonzo and Chesney addressed it head on. Chesney straight up said, he's like, I was embarrassed by that moment. He's like, we should have been better. There's no reason we should have kicked the field goal. And he's like, I got to be better. I got to learn from it. And then Alonzo was like, hey, he makes mistakes. We all make mistakes. But I even thought about just having the center snap it to me anyway. It just shows a team that is so confident right now and so focused on doing their job that even when there's a little bit of, in-game kind of back and forth over what direction they take, they're taking accountability in real time. They're kind of laughing off things that maybe in earlier seasons could have caused some on the sidelines turmoil. And it just speaks to a group that is just really firing on all cylinders, and it's great to see. But the other thing, and this may speak in a big way to why we saw such an outburst, is multiple players in the postgame interviews with Dave Riggard, as well as in the media scrum, mentioning that they were disrespected by App State and how they handled themselves and conducted themselves on the field before the game. Alonzo Barnett saying that App State players spit on the JMU logo on the field. And they straight up said, like, you got to pay for that. And that's a team that was going to defend their home field, and you're not going to disrespect this in our own house. And man, did that play out in a big way yesterday in the final score. But just I felt like the way the game kind of had a chippy feel to it as we went throughout the afternoon, and I was not surprised to see us not hold anything back.
Yeah, and one other thing I want to add to the passing performance, and just again, not just Alonzo, but the entire passing offense, how that's improved. They've gone up 45 points in the national rankings in their passing offense just since the Georgia State game. So I think for them to make such an improvement, and these are the types of games that historically, regardless of who the coach is, that we've struggled to perform at the level that we needed to. It always kind of seemed like when things were on the line, the execution just wasn't there. I think we might have seen a little bit of that at Marshall because we were all a little disappointed. But the more and more I watch that Marshall game, the more and more I'm very happy with a 12-point win. That Marshall team is good. I think that's the best quarterback that we've seen all year, and I'm including Old Dominions in that. I think we were very fortunate to come out of Marshall with a 12-point victory against a team that good, playing with the emotion of the 75. And again, just hats off to the passing offense, which is now complementing a high-powered rushing offense that we've always had. Another fun statistic, we are second in the country in time of possession, and we held on to the ball yesterday against App State 42 minutes to their 17, which that just allows our defense to get rest. And that's what's allowing our defense to not only perform at their full caliber the entire game, but you see we have the ability, we're deep in defense, so we can rotate people in, we're giving the defense rest, and that's going to allow us to win games as we go later on in the season.
All right, so Apt, I'm going to come to you now on the defensive side of the football. Going into this game, there were a lot of questions about what we would see from App State's offense, a team that known more for their passing attack than necessarily their success on the ground. But one area of this defense we've talked about all season is the growth and the quality play from our defensive secondary. We saw that in a big way yesterday.
Yeah, this defense looks phenomenal. And I think it was early fourth quarter. They got a first down. And I thought in my head, like, I don't even remember the last time they got a first down. It felt so long ago. And Taylor's talking about time possession. Here's some stats here. Defensively, we held them to 1 rushing yard, and we ran for 324 yards. And then through the air, we held them to 145 yards, and we passed for 303 yards. So that's a total of 627 to 146. That's just complete domination. And I think 100 of those 146 were in the fourth quarter with the backups in. So that's just complete domination. But on defense, they looked phenomenal. DJ Barksdale had a big pick that I said earlier. I think that turned the tide of the game. Drew Spinagatti had a pick, got called back, though. I'm going to be honest, I didn't even see it. I was in the elevator on the way down the field, so I'm not going to call something I didn't see. I heard rumors that it was a good call. I heard rumors it was a bad call. I don't know, but I'm not going to speculate because I didn't see it. But either way, we did have a pick 6 called back. Or was it pick 6 or just a pick?
That was pick 6.
Yeah, okay. Pick 6 called back. DJ Barksdale had a big pick. We got to the quarterback a lot. I really feel bad for that quarterback, but we did really give him a lot. You could tell that we were rattling their team. They had false starts because of the crowd, false starts because of how much pressure we're sending. I love our third and long blitzes. They seem to just always work. Our corners hang in there. Corners look great. When you talk about depth, Mekhi Rogers played a lot yesterday, which is big. He was supposed to be one of our big additions through the portal. And then at linebacker, you had Jaden Studio play a lot. He had a sack yesterday. That was one of his first times this year getting in, and he played well in the fourth. So it just shows how good this defense is. And there was not a drop down at all in the fourth quarter when we put in the second and third strings.
One thing I would say about this defense is this was a bounce back game for them. They give up a significant amount of yards to Marshall, and even Texas State at times was able to move the ball. And you heard in some of the post game comments that's the last 2 games is this was not a unit that was, willing to settle for, oh, hey, we played really well, we won the game, but hey, we only made a few mistakes. They were challenging themselves and have never allowed themselves to get complacent, or to allow themselves to maybe migrate to a new normal where it's acceptable to give up a certain number of yards or a certain number of points. And it just felt like a unit yesterday that took this game incredibly personal. We had heard some of the stories all week of players who, whether it's Jacob Thomas, whether it's a Trent Hedrick who had experienced losing to App State the last couple of years. They were leaders yesterday, and I think that's the type of thing that helps to drive a program towards not only the big goals that we're all talking about, but those kind of individual in-season games. We at the beginning of the year when we did our pre-season show, we talked about let's circle the games that we had on the revenge tour. We needed to avenge our loss to Georgia Southern. Done. Did that. Had an opportunity to continue to own the state of Virginia with wins over Liberty and wins over ODU. We did that. And now you get your chance against App State to show App State, hey, this was an opportunity to show who's the top team in the program after we dispatched Marshall last week, another one on the revenge tour. This matters, and I think it was part of what drives this team to have the success that they had yesterday.
Yeah, the defense is... It's hard to kind of come up with new things the defense has done every week because it's the one constant that we've continued to have. Even in games like Texas State and Old Dominion, where it was a little back and forth at the beginning, they shut him out in the second half. The Marshall game, I still think the Marshall game that we did as good of a job as we could have, and I compliment the Marshall game plan to that. I think the defense did a great job. But, I mentioned the 127 yards coming in later part of the fourth quarter when we had all of our starters mostly pulled out by that point. App State was the number 1 team in passing offense in the Sun Belt. They have 2 quarterbacks that are over 1,000 yards passing. I believe I know AJ Swan was who started the game, but who is the other quarterback that JJ Cole, who came in? He also has 1,000 yards this year. He's started some games for App State. So this was a good passing team, and we held. I was going to say we held the passing attack. We held the whole team. I mean, 1 yard of rushing. I'll never forget. There was this NFL films that, back Afton probably doesn't know what a VHS tape is, but I had a VHS tape of like NFL films highlights or something. And I forgot the running back. He was a running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers early in the 90s. If I remember it by the end of the show, I'll let you know. But, he was mic'd up. And there's this one scene where he was yelling at his offensive line because they couldn't get the first down in this 1 yard. And he's like, I can lean farther than 1 yard. He's just joking about how easy it should have been to get that 1 yard on that drive. And yet holding a team like App State to 1 yard for an entire game. I know a lot of that factored in with the sacks that we put up, but an incredible showing by the defense. The time of possession by the offense really helped out. It gets you excited for that. The defense seems to be peaking, if you can even call it peaking, at a time where we are going into 3 of the tough. I can now say 3. I'm not jinxing us. 3 of the toughest games of the season, which will be this Washington State game that we've seen get blown out by North Texas, but then we saw lose to UVA on what kind of was a technicality. A Coastal Carolina game that got blown out by Old Dominion, but then ran the table on the East up until yesterday. And then you have the Sun Belt Championship game, which is official as of yesterday, where we don't know who we're going to play in the West yet. But those Western teams, they have not looked good against the East, but it will still be one of the harder games left on our schedule. So I'm excited for the defense to be where they are. It makes me confident about it. Gives the offense a little flexibility that when we lose guys like, Jordan Fuller had to come out of the game yesterday. Landon Ellis had to come out of the game a little bit yesterday. We didn't miss a beat with who we brought in. So just top to bottom, there's very little I can add to it on a podcast that everyone didn't see with their own 2 eyes yesterday.
Yeah. Well, after we do want to turn our attention to Washington State, which will be Marvel Day. I know it's been well chronicled. There's social media. I saw Michael started his day today with a cup of coffee in a Marvel cup. Looked pretty awesome. Hard to know what to make of this Washington State team. A team coming off a 28-3 win over Louisiana Tech. It's hard to take much from that other than they did look good at times. Seemed like their quarterback was pretty mobile yesterday in the game. I watched the highlights. He's definitely somebody who can run the ball. To go through some of their games, a 10-7 loss to Oregon State, a 28-7 win over Toledo. As you mentioned, a 22-20 loss to Virginia. They were in the game in a big way against number 7 Ole Miss, 24-21 they fall, but only beat Colorado State 20-3. It's you just don't know what you're going to get from this Washington State team week to week. I'd say if there is an advantage is now they have to go once again all the way across the country in another cross-country trip. That's not going to be easy. If there's one benefit to not having College Game Day, if there's something that could have fired up a road team looking to make an impact or make some noise on the national stage, it'd be ruining somebody's game day parade. But there's still so much for this team to play for. They are playing for a bowl game. And they also know that if they beat JMU, they can knock off a team who has a shot at the college football playoffs. There'll be no shortage of things a college coach in Washington State can use to motivate their guys. What do you see from this Washington State team?
Well, I just see inconsistency. You said some notable games. They lost to Oregon State. They barely beat Idaho. But then they lose on a game-losing day. They really hang in there all game with Ole Miss. But one thing, and then they destroy Louisiana Tech, who's going to be in the Sun Belt next year. So I guess that's a good win. But it's not even game-to-game inconsistency. When I watch them play, their first 3 quarters are usually good football. And then in the fourth quarter, it just falls apart. They were beating Ole Miss in the fourth. They were beating UVA in the fourth. They got killed by North Texas. So I guess that game, there's battle all 4 quarters. I don't even know what to say about that. But one thing that I've seen is they do string together 3 really good quarters in a lot of their games. And in their fourth quarter, they cannot close out the game. So it seems like they do have a capable offense and a capable defense, but they just can't string it all together. And it's kind of been the theme of the whole season and consistency. But they are playing for a bowl game. And you talked about College Game Day. Even though we don't have it, that doesn't mean that everybody can't bring the College Game Day energy to the stadium on Saturday, because this is a big game. We could get 10 wins from this. We can advance in the playoff picture, right? Stay in the playoff picture. We're already in the Sun Belt Championship, but why not be 11-1 when we're in the Sun Belt Championship instead of 10-2 or 9-3?
Well, they have a quarterback who starts for them, who is completing over 64% of his passes, has thrown 10 touchdowns on the season, but has thrown 8 interceptions. So if there's an area for our JMU defense to continue to grow and have success, and Bob Chesney mentioned this in his post-game press conference, was that he's still a little disappointed in that we haven't forced more turnovers this season. This could be an area for our defense to exploit. But again, for me, and I'm curious, Taylor, if you come at this from the same perspective is it seems like a game where the biggest thing JMU has to worry about again is JMU. If we play to our standard and play with the level that we're playing on both sides of the football, this should be a game based off the opponents they've played and the results that JMU should come out with a win, especially considering it's in Harrisonburg. That point I feel like can't be overstated enough. The difference between this being a home game versus having to travel to Washington State, for example, I might have a different feeling about where this is going to go.
Yeah, I have all the confidence in the world that I don't think our coaching staff or our players are going to overlook this game. But this team is real sneaky, as Afton was talking about. On paper, this is going to be the second toughest team that we've played this year, first being Louisville. And I'm going even harder than Old Dominion. I mean, I think in the Massey rankings, if you look at that, they are 70th. If you look at the teams that they're losing to, as Afton talked about, North Texas, obviously in the playoff conversation now, the American. Washington is a 7-3 team. The Ole Miss game, the Virginia game, the Oregon State game is the only real outlier. I think that's the game that people are looking at and saying, well, this Washington State team must not be very good because Oregon State is bad, and they are very bad. But other than that, they're dominating teams that we're dominating. I mean, of the level that we're dominating. So on paper, I get worried just because there's not a lot. I mean, there's just zero familiarity with a team that's in the Northwest side of the country. They are playing for the Pac-12 championship for the second year in a row, which is, by default because there's two of them. But they I don't really know what to expect. I think fans are going to be shocked when this game ends up being a lot closer than what it should be. I don't know if a spread. I don't know what the spread is off the top of my head right now, but I imagine this game. I think fans are going to be a little surprised that this game ends up being a lot closer. Dare I even say probably within 2 scores. And I think the big talking point also is that North Texas blew them out. Now, I hate the transitive property, but we all know that the college football committee, they don't watch a lot of G5. They don't get a lot of credit to the G5. So when you give them a data point that shows, if we squeak by Washington State by 3 or 7 and North Texas beat them by 49, it's just one of those lazy default stats that someone in the committee that's not really paying attention to the G5 can be like, well, here's one reason so that we, can just put that aside. I expect us to be in the CFP top 25 this Tuesday, and I expect us to be the top G5 team. But as Afton, you and I were talking pre-show, if that's not the case, we do have a little bit of an uphill climb, but it's not impossible because, again, this Washington team being the second hardest team on our schedule, we have an opportunity once again to really boost our resume. Everyone's talking about strength of schedule, strength of resume. Here's a great opportunity to do that. There's a Coastal Carolina team that's not bad, but not great. So there's going to be an opportunity there. And then obviously we're going to have the Sun Belt Championship game, which is going to be, so 3 teams with potential winning records to finish the season. This is a very important part of the season. And in other seasons at JMU, this has been the time where things kind of start to go off the guardrails a little bit. But I think the way we've played the last month, the last 4 games should give you a lot of confidence of why JMU is likely the top G5 team in the country right now.
And my final thought on this game is it seems, again, we have all of these things that maybe in previous years we would be celebrating much more than we are currently right now, and it wouldn't be more of just a footnote, is that this is the biggest brand that's ever come into JMU. I don't debate me on that or challenge me if I'm wrong on that, but I don't even think it's really that much of a stretch to say it's the biggest brand we've ever had. It's the first Power 4 team, Power 5, whatever we're going to call this new landscape of college football. It's a program that if you tune in to College Game Day, you're always going to see a Washington State Wazoo flag at College Game Day. It's a brand, and I have a feeling they're going to bring a fairly decent amount of Washington State fans. I know that their fans have traveled already to the UVA games, so how many people make the trip, but there's still probably a solid base of their alums in Virginia and the surrounding area, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of them inside Bridgeforth Stadium. So don't lose that fact as well. Yeah,
and I also want to go back, and I think, John, you and I were having this conversation, going back to the chirping from the American fans, which, I loved going back and forth with USF last week. Looks like we're going to go back and forth with UNT this week. after UNT probably blows it next week. Who's it gonna be? Tulane. We're just gonna take off the American fan base one by one. But a lot of chirping about JMU's strength of schedule. Well, going into this season, you looked at our out of conference. You had a Washington State team that was projected to be better than what they are now. And if you look at their schedule, they're not far away from actually being better than what they are now. You had a Liberty team who, for the last 5 or 6 years, has been one of the top G5 programs in the country. Obviously, we had the Louisville team, but then you looked at our out of conference. Our out of division games were Texas State, Louisiana, picked 1 and 2 in the West.
Yeah.
Now, can we help it that Liberty has completely fallen off the rails? Can we help it that Louisiana and Texas State have completely underperformed? And obviously, Washington State, I think they're 5-5 record obviously doesn't show how good I think they really are. So it's just really difficult when you're in Matt Roan's shoes, you're an athletic director, you're a football coach, you're trying to put together a schedule that, one, will give you a record that's going to put you on the national spotlight, but two, get teams that want to play you. You want to play them. They're not scared to play you. We're not scared.
Especially when you've had the success you've had over the course of the last decade plus. It's not,
Absolutely.
and you're making these schedules now, in some cases, 10 years out or more.
Absolutely. Well, and pretend you're some P4 program that a couple of years trying to make an easy out of conference schedule, and you're like, let's throw Virginia, Vandy, and Indiana on our out of conference schedule. I'm just so in this era, it's just so hard to tell what the future is going to bring, which again, this is my weekly reminder to all JMU fans that this is such an awesome season and we're having such a great time, and just embrace the moment. Next week we get our likely won't be our last Saturday in Harrisonburg, but we don't report on anything unless it's absolute. But we got 1 or 2 more game days in Bridgeforth this year. Just embrace the opportunity to spend the tailgates with your friends and your families. And remember the Korean barbecue legends of this year and everything. These are going to be tailgates and game days that you talk about for years to come. And it's a good time to be a Duke.
Well, one point of note, we can say this will be the final Saturday inside Bridgeforth Stadium, because if we host the Sun Belt Championship,
very good point.
It will be under the lights, 7 p.m. ESPN. It will be cold. It'll be dark. And as we always say, it will be perfect. But I just know.
And it will be sold out, unlike the American
7 p.m. Friday night games inside of Bridgeforth Stadium. I have a feeling Matt Roan and company are going to work out a way for tailgate lots to open up early. It will be one way or the other. It's going to be a spectacular.
Speaking of Matt Roan and company, I believe Matt Roan and President Jim were deep in the student section yesterday.
Yes.
So I want to give a shout out to President Jim and Matt Roan
and the guitar, by the way. So doing a little air guitar on the Jumbotron, pretty sweet.
You gotta. I mean, those guys. I mean, you want to talk about 2 people that are having as much fun as the fans this year enjoying this program. Those 2 are having a blast, and I'm so thankful that they are in a position where they see the value in this athletic program. They realize the true definition of being the front porch of a university. And I want to reassure everyone listening that every goal and opportunity you think JMU can aspire to hit, I guarantee you they've thought about it, they're pursuing it, and so much more.
Yeah, you saw 2 guys that were very much in alignment on so many different things yesterday, including just having fun, and that's all you can really ask for. I'm excited to get a chance to see President Jim on Tuesday night at his presidential tour, which is coming to Richmond. So get a chance to hear more from him. If there's anything that comes from that event, we'll be sure to report it here on Sound Off as always. But let's start now just with our final thoughts, because I know there's a number of things both of you want to touch on. I'll start with you, Afton, whether you want to lead with your kids' picks or go any direction you want to take it in terms of things around the college football landscape. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so I have a lot of final thoughts. My kids' picks have been pretty dead this year, except for I had like 1 or 2 really good weeks that actually weren't really talked about. But so I'll kind of narrow it down here. I just have 2 games, so it's like
really quick. I meant to say this as your lead-in. The one kid pick we do need to shout out though is, how about our boy Nathan yesterday getting up on the Jumbotron? If you see our social media, he got in the shirts off fourth quarter, was living it up. Taylor's son is obviously. We had him doing the helicopter with his shirt on our Instagram page. So obviously you've got to step up your game in terms of meeting their energy. Let's just say that.
Whoa. I was on the field. Come on.
Shirt on the field though. Just saying. No excuses.
That's true.
The dad bod hasn't hit you yet. So
that's true. So my kids picks, one of the games doesn't even matter, but I just need to get one on the board. So we got Tennessee at Florida. Give me the Vols. It's a rivalry game, so you might be like, Florida's not good, but it's a rivalry. It's at Florida. Florida's played a lot of close games this year, but give me Tennessee. And here's a big one. Tulane at Temple. Now, I know Temple's not really a team that people would want to watch, but I've watched them about 3 times this year. Their offense is electric. Very, very good offense. Tulane's a really good team, but Temple can knock them out of everything right now if they want them to. But those are my 2 kids' picks. I'm going to leave it at that.
Where is that game?
It's at Temple.
Okay.
Okay.
Casey Keeler help out the Dukes. You never know.
That'll be big. But so playoffs, this is where I thrive right here. College football playoffs. The American teams talk a big talk, really big talk. In my opinion, what we have right now is we have a big 3 of North Texas, JMU, and Tulane. And I think Navy is kind of a prayer away, but it's possible. And everybody else is out of the conversation since USF lost. So when you go team by team, North Texas has the same record as us. And they always make fun of us for string the schedule. But they have a bottom 10 strength of schedule in college football. We have a better strength of schedule and strength of record than North Texas with the same record. So you would think, okay, that's a pretty obvious pick. It's us. So then you go on to Tulane. Tulane is a 2-loss team, right? But one of the losses is Ole Miss. But then this is where Taylor's team comes into play. UTSA scored 55 points and beat this team by 20. That is, no offense, Taylor, that is embarrassing if you're Tulane.
Just not embarrassing.
It was a bad
solid program down there in San Antonio.
They talk about us only beating Georgia State by 7. Well, guess what? They beat South Alabama by 2. So, yeah. How about that? And they talk about a crowd. You listen to this right here. North Texas has sold out 1 game in the history of North Texas, and it took them playing a top 20 team, right? They have not been ranked in 66 years until today, and we are ranked 21 in the AP, 22 in the coaches. So how do you like that, American?
Well, here's one thing to point out why I'm so big on the North Texas is a fraud bandwagon. Obviously, we've pointed out the South Florida, but if you look at the teams who are leading the American, ECU, they don't play them. Memphis, they don't play them. Tulane, they don't play them. So it's real easy to have one of the best records in the conference when you've avoided every other good team in the conference. I'll give them props for beating Navy, but they were exposed against South Florida. So this is where when I see North Texas on our heels, I'm like, if they make it to the American Conference Championship, they're going to get blown out by whoever they play. So I'm not really worried about North Texas. I think I pointed out, and after, I'm sorry, were you done with your thing? Because I interrupted you. I just wanted to get the North Texas fraud thing out of me. So.
Well, I'm with you on that, but I was actually going to even go even further with that. They did not only play nobody, and then the one good team they play, they get ran out of their own stadium for the first time they ever sold it out. They won in overtime against Army and in overtime against Western Michigan. That's embarrassing stuff. That's just embarrassing. Sorry.
And some people, even if it's not embarrassing, it's not at the level that I see Tulane, JMU, even Memphis and some of these schools that have had to go. I mean, that's the problem is at the top, the American's just kind of eating itself alive. North Texas is this one that's kind of just scooting by all of them, and they're not going to really face anyone at that championship game, assuming that they get there. I think they're going to maybe have a tough time. Was it Temple? Yeah, they played Temple this week. No, North Texas plays Rice. Tulane plays Temple. Yeah. And I could see Tulane and North Texas potentially losing one of those games. Yeah,
especially in the chaos of this season. If there's been any takeaway from 2025 is that expect chaos to happen when you least expect it. It's crazy.
Yeah, so not even to mention all of that, we are in the playoff race right now. We are first in the AP in Group of 5, first in the coaches poll in the Group of 5, first in strength of record in the Group of 5, and second in strength of schedule in the Group of 5. It's impressive.
Boom.
There you go.
Yeah,
all right,
I mean, earlier today, like Afton said, we found out we're 22 in the coaches poll, 21 in the AP poll. I can't imagine how that doesn't translate to the CFP, especially since in the CFP rankings, 21, 22, 24, and 25 all lost yesterday. So I would expect for JMU to move into there. And let's take the chance to spike this football in the end zone. The first team from the state of Virginia to get into the CFP rankings was not Tech. It wouldn't be UVA. No, sorry, it is UVA. Daggone it. Can we edit this out? Is this live? Daggone it. Okay. Right. Well, wahoo wah. Then you know what? When we make the playoffs. But yeah, some of those games we talked about Temple and Tulane. We talked about North Texas and Rice. UTSA, ECU. You know that's is East Carolina going to find a way to sneak into the American? I mean that's going to be interesting. Louisville, SMU, 2 7-3 teams going against each other next week. I'll be interested. I know Afton's going to pick Louisville for the win. I would love to see Louisville win. I'm cheering for every game that Louisville plays from here on out. Man, that was a good game they played, but they came up short. And then Coastal Carolina, South Carolina. Here's why I bring this up. There's reports that maybe the Coastal Carolina quarterback got injured yesterday. We don't really know what his status is going to be going forward. But anytime you play one of these big SEC teams, I mean, you're going to take a couple licks, and it would be, what kind of Coastal Carolina team is going to show up in 2 weeks,
especially when they're not playing for
anything,
berth in the Sun Belt title game anymore. That
right.
to me, I think, is a massive factor, and that crowd now should be significantly reduced from what it would have been if they were playing, obviously, for a title chance.
Even with the free concessions.
That being said,
I can't wait for that.
We are rolling deep to South Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
Coastal Carolina.
I'm not even going to eat anything at the tailgate. I'm going straight to the concession line.
We are going to chronicle that entire experience. It's going to be fun. Yeah, but I'm just saying there's a lot trending, and I have a feeling just from yesterday's conversations alone that the amount of purple that's going to be down in South Carolina that day is going to be quite impressive. So, and especially if their crowd does not come, it is going to be very noticeable. So we shall see.
Yeah.
Any more final thoughts, Taylor?
No, I'm just excited because, we're saying a lot of stuff preemptively of the CFP rankings coming out Tuesday. But, when the Tuesday rankings come out, as we expect them to come out, to have a JMU team in its second full year of FBS, fourth year in total, to be, we should call it the triple crown of college football, the coaches poll, the AP poll, and the CFP. It's a time to sit back and reflect and just appreciate that we're currently achieving things that a lot of schools with much more in resources and budget have yet to do. You got to tip the hat to the leadership, not only that we currently have at JMU, but we're standing on the shoulders of giants: Jeff Bourne, President Rose, Charlie King, President Alger. There's a lot of people that have been a part of this program for a very long time, even people I didn't mention. I'm sorry I'm leaving people out, but there was a vision that was put forth in the late 90s, early 2000s of what not only this football program could be, but this athletic program could be. And because of their leadership and everything they did, you have the opportunity to bring in a Matt Roan, to bring in a President Jim. And we are in a very, very good position going forward, even with all the uncertainty that lies ahead with really college football, conferences, everything. So go Dukes. Let's beat Washington State.
My final thought is to give flowers to somebody who's probably a little disappointed today, but still deserves some credit for dreaming the way she did early in the season, is Brooke Boyd. In our preseason special, she predicted College Game Day would come to Harrisonburg for the Washington State game. Hey, we were a finalist for it up until, an hour before it's announced. We all thought it was happening. That just shows Brooke, again, believes in this team, is about as passionate and diehard as it gets in the JMU world. She was going to come on today, but she's at the women's basketball game. So her fandom doesn't stop at just the success of the. She's always here, no matter what our record is in every one of these sports. She's meeting the team. Sometimes they're down at airports when they come back. So, Brooke, you're a big fan of our show. We just want you to know we appreciate you. And now we just got to think towards the next time when you'll dream for a college game day appearance at JMU, because let's be honest, we're not done with being in the conversation. I have a feeling many, many years to come, we're going to be a team that's going to be mentioned and ESPN's going to want to come back to. And Taylor, I see your hand. You want to add to that probably.
I was just going to say, I think we had one of the best tailgates of the year last year. So John and I kind of hold down the Sound Off tailgate down there in the C9 lot. We do sneak over to Afton and Barry's tailgate because they usually have the best food. But what's neat about our tailgate, John, I think we probably had 50 some people, and a lot of them were people that we met through the podcast that have come up to us, said, hey, love the podcast. And we've said, hey, come over to a tailgate, and they've become good friends of ours. So, we're always over there in C9, which is the lot going into the tunnel. So please come by, stop by. Everyone's welcome.
I've got 2 points on that. So yesterday I met a ton of people in Convocation Center lot when we walked through. Met a woman who said, I'm watching our podcast is the soundtrack to her cleaning the house during the week. So happy that we could add to that. I had somebody come up and ask me why I only wear my hat backwards. So just for you, didn't wear a hat at all today. So I say that in jest, just knowing that, like, as cliche as and as much as we say it, like, it is so much fun for us to be able to interact with fans on game day. Again, because we just are fans of the program, and to see that we're able to contribute in any way, shape, or form to giving people an escape from the trials and tribulations of the world, or give them something that fills an hour and 10 minutes of their day on Sunday, or they watch some of our content. Just know it means a lot to us. And the more you come to say hello, the more we're going to keep doing this, the more we're going to have a smile on our faces. And just know, as we said last week, if there's anything that we can highlight on this program that promotes the JMU universe, that helps advance a cause. One of the things I saw yesterday that was probably one of the coolest things that I witnessed as a part of the game day experience was the donor match presentation that happened on the field yesterday. Seeing a JMU student who had battled with cancer get a donor match from another former JMU student. They didn't know each other. That's special. Those are the types of causes we want to promote on this program. So if you saw that yesterday, consider signing up for the donor match program. Find out if you could help not only a fellow Duke, but somebody else out there. There's just many, many ways that we're going to try to use this platform to grow this brand and to grow the JMU community, and ultimately just provide an escape and some happiness. So that's kind of my final thought, is a big shout out and thank you to everyone who makes the show possible. And with that, we'll give a one last final recognition of our sponsors who help actually make the show be something that we're able to deliver each and every week. Skyline Financial Partners, Champions Drive Bourbon, Where's Woody, Purple Nation, Shoker Enterprises, the Dead Meat Society, Outdoor Kitchen Creations, and Valley Road Vineyards. Thank you for your support. And as always, go Dukes. Enjoy all the content in the national discussion this week. There's bound to be a lot. And we'll be back on Sunday, 8 p.m. next week for another edition of JMU Sound Off. Find your Marvel costumes this week too, people. Let's put on, I want to see extra Spider-Man and Captain America's and the Hulk's in the crowd yesterday. I know some of the kids will probably be having some fun with this. You might see us in costume. You never know what we're going to bring to the table. And as always, we'll talk to you guys soon. Go Dukes.